right, I think we are in business here. Welcome, everybody. Um, let's see, let's get the text of Ecclesiastes up. Hope everybody's doing well today. And figured we'd continue our discussion that we began last night. So Ecclesiastes chapter 1. And I just have to, for some reason, my crazy old webcam ain't working, so we're gonna see if we can make some adjustments there. There we go. Hopefully this does the trick. Yep. And anyways, leave me a comment. Let me know how you're doing today and what you'd be interested in covering. We're going to be obviously looking at the Hebrew text. I'll also be looking, at the Targum and the Septuagint, so the ancient Aramaic, we could say, or medieval Aramaic, really, and the ancient Greek, and happy to go down any rabbit trails you'd like. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the Babylonian Talmud. Whoop, there we are. All right, larger than life here. Okay, I think we can shrink my mug there. I am going to be getting a new webcam soon, so stay tuned for that. That'll definitely improve the quality of what we're doing here. But yesterday we talked, or I think last night when we did our live stream, we talked a good bit about or at least some length about the Babylonian Talmud and what it has to say about the authorship of the Book of Ecclesiastes and so on and so forth. So we got Cenk with us. Awesome. So glad you're here. All right, and Cenk, I haven't forgotten about your request for Psalm 82. I was actually organizing my library just yesterday while my friend was here helping to install this whole new computer setup that we've got. And so I've been getting my books together, reorganized, and I found a bunch of things that I actually want to introduce you to. I'll just, while we're waiting for others to sign on, I figure a couple of the resources that you might be interested in, because I seem to recall the other day that you said you appreciate the book recommendations, and so with that being the case, the first one here, one of the best commentary series on the Psalms, it really is a set. So is Fortress Press in the Continental Commentary series. So there it is. And so in the Continental Commentary series, which all the volumes I've used out of there have been fantastic. So this is Krause's 3-volume commentary. So it's really 2 volumes of straight up commentary of the individual Psalms, and then 1 volume of the theology of the Psalms. And they were originally published in German, and then the English translation was published in the series. So really fantastic commentary on the Hebrew text. And then Mayor Gruber's with Rashi's commentary. Oops, there it is. Sorry, maybe now you can see it. Rashi's commentary on the Psalms. So Rashi, for those who are not familiar, a medieval Jewish commentator, and very important for understanding Peshat as well as for understanding midrashic interpretations. And sorry, my camera's really having problems today, so ended up freezing on me here. We'll try to fix that real soon. But and then with regard to Hermeneia, Hermeneia is fantastic. It really is a fantastic commentary series. That's why I said Continental is one of the best. Hermeneia is absolutely fantastic, and I have we're all frozen there. I don't know what's going on with this thing. If you guys have any recommendations for webcams too, let me know. I'm looking at purchasing a new one. So this one is getting a little wonky here, it appears. But so the Hermeneia series is absolutely fantastic. and we will certainly make reference to that. That commentary series actually has a lot of references to ancient Near Eastern art, which we were talking about. So, anywho, but that's just a little bit on the Psalms. I do, I just wanted to show you some evidence that I haven't been ignoring what you requested. So, all right, let's get into Ecclesiastes though now. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, Ecclesiastes and Qohelet, two different names for the same book here. And let me just reset this. We'll get the text up there. And so we only read part of, we read all of verse 1 in the Hebrew yesterday, and then we read, as I recall, part of the Targum. So let's just review quickly verse 1 in the Hebrew, where it says, Divrei Qohelet ben David melech b'Yerushalayim. And so Divrei Qohelet, we said that can rightly be translated the words and affairs of Qohelet, the words and affairs of Qohelet. Part of this is going to be biographical, and we'll look at that when we get there. I'm not going to comment on that much now, but divrei is a masculine plural construct of the word davar. So davar is one of your more common, davar is one of your more common Hebrew words, one of the first words that you learn when you're studying Hebrew. And so divrei is the masculine plural construct. Divrei is the masculine plural construct. And so the words of, or the words and affairs of Qohelet, the words and affairs of Qohelet. And we said Qohelet, first of all, is not, it does not mean Solomon. Could Qohelet be Solomon? Well, I'll have to let you judge for that. Judge for yourself on that. But whether this is Qohelet or whether this is Solomon or not, we're going to have to look at the evidence within the book, and we'll hold off on that now. And then we had Ben David, the son of David, which can mean a literal biological descendant of David, or it can be, or a literal son of David, I mean to say, or it can be a descendant, any number of generations. In the same way that son of Adam can be any human being descended from Adam. Okay. All right. So the words of Qohelet, son of David, king in Jerusalem, and presumably that's to be understood in the present tense. But we'll look at some funny exegetical issues with regard to that. Okay. Now we go over to the Targum. And in the Targum, we said, the Targum, there's a complete and total shift in terms of the genre. And so we get Pitgamei Nevuah, the words of prophecy. So in the Targum, Qohelet is apparently a prophecy. What? Okay, Pitgamei Nevuah, the Itna bi Qohelet, which Qohelet prophesied. He, by the way, Hu Shlomo, he is Solomon. So there's a clear exegetical statement. Hu Shlomo va David, he is Solomon, the son of David. So this is really interesting because it understood the Hebrew Ben David, which is translated into Aramaic as Bar David. You might recall from the New Testament, Simon Bar Jonah, right? Simon Bar Jonah, Shimon Bar Yonah. And so Bar is the Aramaic word for the Hebrew son. Okay, the Hebrew word for son. So Pitgamei, there we are. Pitgamei Nevuah Di'it Nabi Qohelet Hu Shlomo Bar David Malka. Now Malka, I just want to comment on that for those who are studying Aramaic. And again, I never know, with regard to those who are viewing, how many people know Aramaic well, and, is their Aramaic better or worse than their Hebrew? Is it even comparable? Do they have Greek? So I'm counting on you guys to, to just kind of clue me in and let me know what requires explanation and what doesn't, okay? And, so we'll, let's get rid of this camera. We will have a new camera for next time. Hopefully, one of my colleagues is listening and they can make some recommendations. I'm actually probably going to go pick one up today because this is absurd. All right. So, anywho, we'll bring the camera back for just a minute. Okay, there we go. All right. So yeah. So Bar David. Okay. And then Malka, we said that Malka, in certain Aramaic dialects, by the way, you pronounce it Malka, Malka, but in the biblical Aramaic with the Tiberian pronunciation, it would be Malka, stressed on the end. This is the determined form. So the final aleph with the preceding kamats, that ending, is the many people think of it as the Aramaic definite article. It's really not the definite article. It's what we should rightly call the mark of determination. Okay, and the mark of determination is just a bit confusing because sometimes determined forms can be definite. So we would have to translate with a definite article. Other times they're not, right? It can be qualitative, the quality of being something. Other times it's just translated indefinitely. So, and that's because the Aramaic language is in a state of flux. It's not a language that's limited to one nation. We can comment on this more some other time, but you can translate Malka either as king or the king. Okay. And I'm looking over, if you look down at the bottom right part of my screen, that's the translation that I produced for Accordance Bible software. And I rendered this as the son of King David, the son of King David, or, I could have gone with the son of David the king, but clearly king refers to David here in the Targum. That's my opinion anyway. In the Hebrew, it's not so clear. Okay, and then son of King David, who was in Jerusalem, Malka, Dahava, and it has to be translated this way because the Dahava, which was, Da being the relative pronoun, and Hava being the third masculine singular suffix conjugation, G stem verb meaning he was. Who was, or which he was, if you want to be hyper literal, who was in Jerusalem. Okay, Birushalem. All right, so let me pause for a second here. Any questions on the Aramaic of Qohelet or Ecclesiastes 1:1? I know I've been doing a lot of talking here, so I need to make time for questions. Okay, so Cenk, I see you've got a question here. So I'm told feminine forms of singular nouns often preserve the root as originally pronounced. Yes, that is absolutely correct. So why not? Let's have a look at something. I'm going to open up a new screen here. In fact, we'll just look at the word melech, and we'll bring up the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon. I just need to move some windows around and make sure you guys, I got to get my mug out of here for a minute. So let's make me disappear. Okay. And then let me just increase the type size. All right. So this is the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. Okay. And the entry for melech. Okay. Or the first entry for melech. There's a second entry. You can, if you look down, whoops. Why is this not going down? Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, this really doesn't want to work. Okay, well, all right. Oh, article, that's why I was doing the wrong thing. Yeah, so Melech 2, here we go. And you can just see it's a short form in names, okay? So, Malikos there, but we're not going to deal with that. Some names in First Chronicles 835, 941. But up to the main entry for the noun. So how do we read the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon? If someone's not familiar with it, let's walk through it. So it says that this word appears around 2,500 times, circa around. There's, and of course sorry. And of course I just did that. There we go. And then it gives evidence from the Samaritan Pentateuch. So we'll talk about the Samaritan Pentateuch some other time. But an alternative version of the Hebrew scriptures in Samaritan Hebrew. And there it's Malek. And so you see the Old Samaritan Hebrew even has that A vowel. The E between the L and the K, or the Lamed and the Kaf, that is what we call an anaptictic vowel. anaptictic, which is really just a helping vowel. You see this in Arabic as well. Anyways, it's just a helping vowel to avoid consonant clusters. But bottom line is Samaritan Hebrew says the vowel is an A. Okay. Then we look at the Septuagint, and what we find, and other Greek renderings, there are compound words with both malch and melch. You see both. Sometimes milk, okay? But malch and melch. So there is at least in the Greek evidence of that A vowel, okay? Then we look at Middle Hebrew, which is a later form of post-biblical Hebrew, Ugaritic, Phoenician, Aramaic, and there you see the malch, okay? Babylonian Aramaic, Jewish Aramaic, those texts are not vocalized. What do we get when we go over to Arabic? It's an A, okay? Ethiopic functions a little bit differently, and then, but the proposed form here, the proposed hypothetical form is malk, M-A-L-K. Whenever we see that asterisk, by the way, that indicates that we're dealing with a hypothetical form, a reconstructed form. Then notice what we get in Akkadian. You get malku and maliku, okay? Oftentimes you get the word sharru for king, but there you go. Anyways, the preponderance of evidence that we find is that this is an A. Is originally, the Proto-Semitic vowel is A. In earlier biblical Hebrew, it would have been an A in the pre-Tiberian tradition, before the 6th century probably. And even when we put melech into the possessive, my king, it's not melki or milki, it's malki, my king. So it's not that the vowel changes when we go into the other forms like the possessive, it's that those forms preserve the original. It's the lexical form that exhibits a later change. This is not the original vowel pattern. It would have been, and here's the hypothetical form, malk. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Please let me know if there's any clarification I can offer on that. I'm going to just shrink the type size. And yeah, when you also, when you go over here too, just, another point of reference, when you look at the other forms as they appear in the Hebrew Bible with Tiberian vocalization, you get malki, all right, malachim is a little bit different, right, because the stress shifts, but malche, the kings of, okay, their kings, malchehem, they all have an A vowel in there, that short A vowel, okay? All right, and so, yeah, you're absolutely right with that. All right, so please, any questions you have, feel free to do that. Whoop, that's not what I'm looking for. Here we go. All right, so we took a look too, as I recall, at the Greek of 1:1 last night as well. So if anybody's interested in that, I would say just go over and check out the video from yesterday's recording. Okay. All right, and okay, why did they do double segol in pronunciation? Okay, excellent question. So the double segol in the pronunciation, let's see, am I still on camera? Ooh, there we go. All right, so the double segol, the reason for that is that the second segol, the segol in the second syllable, actually occurred first, and it was included as an anaptictic vowel. Okay, and a helping vowel to avoid consonant clusters. So what happened in Hebrew, and we know this from other Semitic languages, is that the form originally would have been malkum, and let me see, in this view, can I write in the chat here? Apparently not. I have to pop the window out. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on. All right, yeah, doing this on the new computer here. I don't know if it's letting me pop it out. Refresh page, switch account. No, it's not. This is really weird. When I was doing this on my Mac, it was a piece of cake. But anyways, so I'll just spell it out for now, and then I'll figure this whole business out later. But anyways, so Moderation activity will be shown. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, man, this is really weird. Okay, so be it. We'll get rid of that. So, anyways, Malkum, Malkum, Malkum. Okay, and the we see this in Akkadian. We also see in Arabic they don't use mimation at the end, that M sound. They use a nun. So, Malikun would be the full form in Quranic Arabic, Malikun. And in Hebrew, first, the nunation disappeared. So Malkum went to Malku, and that U is a nominative vowel. The U is a nominative vowel, and then that dropped off. So Malkum went to Malku, which left us with Malk. Now, generally speaking, in Semitic languages, they don't like ending words with consonant clusters, so with two consonants. And we even see this in Palestinian Arabic today, where whenever a word ends with a consonant cluster, not whenever, but it's very common when words end in a consonant cluster, that an anaptictic vowel will be added between the final two consonants. Okay, and so what happened with Malkum going to Malku, which then went to Malk, but oh wait a second, we don't like Malk, and so that's where we get the anaptictic vowel Malech, Malech, and then by reason of what we call assimilation, so that one vowel becomes like the other, Malech goes to Melech. Okay, and these are all attested phenomena in linguistics. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit there. And feel free to keep throwing questions at me. I'm always happy to answer them and to stop what I'm doing. So I'll keep my eye on the chat as we're going through this. And we go to look at Ecclesiastes 1:2 now, or Qohelet 1:2. All right, and let's see. So we get Havel Havalim, Amal Qohelet, Havel Havalim, Hakol Havel. Okay, and this is a great example. We're going to come back to this anaptictic vowel business and the original root at the end of this verse with the word Havel. So thank you for the question, and yeah, you're welcome. I'm always happy to help out here. I should pause though, because you might want some resources, right? So give me 1 second here. So aside from using one of the better lexica or dictionaries of Hebrew, the two main resources that pretty much I or pretty much any scholar will use, the first one is Joshua Blau's The Phonology and Morphology of Biblical Hebrew. Essentially, this book is what we call a historical Hebrew grammar. A historical Hebrew grammar. And so, of course, I was walking my dog right before the broadcast, and I left my glasses at home. So sometimes one of my daughters will listen in, and if she is listening, then would you bring Dad his glasses, please? But anyways, in the historical Hebrew grammar here, I play the part of the old guy here, pushing the book back. Yeah, phonology, semiconsonants, the vowels of Hebrew, morphology of the noun. And yeah, so if you look, where do they get into the regular nouns, first person? Those are the pronouns. Here we go. Yeah, so it begins in section 4.4, and they deal with everything that I just talked about is in here. So, they deal with cases and gender, and so everything I said about that final mem, the hypothetical final mem, the final u, it's all there. I don't know if you can how well you can see that, but yeah, that's kind of where it's dealt with. And then but that's the book, Phonology and Morphology of Biblical Hebrew, and that's what we call a historical Hebrew grammar. Probably gonna leave that right there while we do that. And then what was I going to show you? Oh yes, so electronically, you can get this in print as well. Just squinting here a little bit. So I think I might have talked about this yesterday, or I don't know, in one of these live streams, right? And here we go. So this is Juan Muraoka's Grammar of Biblical Hebrew, but this is the advanced Grammar of Biblical Hebrew that I go to right away. And here, let's just open it up, and we go to the morphology section, and you go down to noun, and noun formation, and we'll go to noun gender, noun inflection. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so let me just slide that over. And anyways, he's getting into syllabification. Here, perfect. I got it. Inflection of Qohelet nouns. So why don't we look at this really quickly, since there's so few of us on the broadcast here. We'll just look at it together. So he writes here, so included in this category of inflection are all the nouns with one primitive short vowel. That's what I was talking about with that original A. Namely the nouns from strong roots or weak roots which have taken and what I call an anaptictic vowel. He calls an auxiliary vowel here. Same difference. Usually segol, hence the designation Qohelet nouns. Now notice that it's usually segol, not always, okay? And that goes between root consonant 2 and root consonant 3. Let's see, and also those which have no auxiliary vowel. So then they give you the pattern here. There's the kotel pattern, and notice what the paradigmatic verb is. It's melech, okay? And but there's all these other ones. But let's go down and we'll look at melech. What did he say that was B? Yeah, A, B here, general discussion. Yeah, melech, sefer, kodesh, good. And I just want you to see, yeah, like here, for instance, here he's dealing with sefer. I want you to see where he deals with melech, only because that's the one you had the question about. Okay. And so then, yeah, under the influence of the auxiliary vowel E of the type sefer, the primitive malk became malach with the auxiliary vowel, and that's, essentially an E vowel. And then, which is very open, the main vowel A became under the influence. This is what I called, the principle of analogy there. And that's what happens. All right. So sefer is part of the influence, that pattern of verbs or nouns, I mean. Yeah. All right. Let me glance over at the chat. I see that, whoops, hold on one second. Yeah, my family Christmas wish list. Thanks for the book recommendations. No problem. I definitely recommend getting these electronically if you can with your Bible software, because it's so much easier to track things down. You save an awful lot of time. And then, okay, and I'm sorry, I got to squint here a little without my glasses. So Baal and Sha'ar, yeah. So those, you have to look at those because there are a lot of different patterns of nouns, and some that look like segolets are not, and some that don't look like segolets actually are. So those we'll deal with. If you want to deal with all these in in all their glory, I'm happy to do that sometime. But yeah, this leads down a lot of rabbit trails there. Yep. All right. So give me 1 second. So looking at here now, Havel Havalim. Now, Havel, this is a masculine singular construct. Okay, masculine singular construct. And it historically is translated as vanity. In fact, I didn't scroll up with the other windows here. There we go. Okay. Now, this word, though, lexically is, it shows up in the Hebrew dictionary as hevel. Hevel. Okay. And I just want to show it to you in the lexicon, just so you can see it. Okay. And there you go. Is that, oh, no, sorry. My mug is in the way again. Dagnabbit. Here, I'll move myself down to the bottom, and hopefully this won't mess up my camera. But there it is, hevel. And you can see when you consider all the evidence that it's translated very broadly or variously as warm breath, vapor, vanity, dust, right? Sometimes it's associated with wind down below here. And there we go. I shrink the camera and it freezes up on me. So let me just fix that for a minute. Okay, there we go. Yeah, every time I shrink the camera, or shrink the video window, it freezes up. I don't know what the deal is. If it's a OBS thing, or if it's the camera itself, but we'll fix that. But anyways, so the word is hevel. That's how it's listed. But let's have a look really quickly as soon as I fix this dag-nabbit old camera again. Okay, and just look. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. At the evidence again, and you'll see, in Arabic, abil, right, for fool. 70 times in here, 35 of which are in Ecclesiastes. Yes, absolutely. The interesting thing, though, is, I'm trying to scroll in the wrong window. That's the problem. Okay, there we go. Yep. So, and you look at it and you see, well, an E vowel, but oh, wait a second. In this form, there's an A vowel again, right? Just like the forms of, we said that melech became malchehem, right? And here it is, havlechem, or havlehem in the third plural, right? What's the construct? It's just like melech in the masculine plural construct, malche havle, all right? So so we see what's going on there with that, and the various translations. Breath, Isaiah 57:13. Notice it's connected with ruach in Psalm 62, Psalm 144, Job 7:16. That's very interesting because that pertains to wind and breath. That term. Now vanity. Okay. What we have to be careful of too with the word vanity is that this translations that use vanity, they do this because of the use of vanity in older English translations like the King James. And so for that reason, we have to be careful when looking at the word vanity that we don't read modern meanings into the word there. And so ultimately, we want to let the context dictate what the term means. Now, I want to scroll down for a minute, and just, go on here. So, idols here, things that do not really exist. So if you look at some of the parallels there, okay, and so there we go. And then you say, oh, hey, wait a second. There's a second entry for the word Hevel, and it's Abel, Cain's brother. Wow, he actually has this name, right? And interestingly enough, that when Abel appears in the biblical story, he is here 1 minute and gone the next. He's fleeting. He disappears very quickly. He's gone by verse 8. And you say, wait a second, something that doesn't really exist, or even better, something transitory like breath, or like we saw above, a vapor. Okay? Now, is that what Abel's name meant? No, because words can mean multiple things originally, but you can't escape the fact that in the Bible, the first person to be offed, and offed very quickly, his name either means or is synonymous with breath or vapor. So very interesting exegetical insight. So when we go over to Ecclesiastes 1:2 and we say Havel Havalim, vanity of vanities, which, okay, maybe, but it could be something like fleeting of fleeting things. Okay. Now this construction, in order to understand this, let me just scroll here 1 second. I want to get that cursor out of the way. When you have a noun in the singular in construct before the same noun but in the plural, okay, that is how you express the superlative, generally speaking, in Hebrew. So this would mean the most hevel thing. What is hevel? Well, the most vain thing, the most fleeting thing. There's a whole bunch of definitions that scholars have come up with, and part of this series, as we go through Qohelet or through Ecclesiastes, is trying to figure out what this word means. You can see the ESV has gone with the old familiar translation there, vanity of vanities, but there is a footnote. I don't even know what it says. Vanity of vanity refers to, yeah, they tell you right here in the study notes. It refers to a mist or a vapor, right? It could be metaphorically to something that's fleeting or elusive. And what we're going to have to do is look throughout our study of Ecclesiastes and figure out what exactly does the writer of Ecclesiastes mean in every particular instance when he uses the word hevel. Okay, so havel havalim. Okay, the most, and for now I'm going to translate it. I'm not going to leave, or I'm not going to translate it. I'm going to translate it as the most hevel thing, and we're just going to let the text dictate to us what hevel probably means. But I want to get away from that term vanity, because what people think it means is not really what it means. All right, let me pause for questions here. I also wanted to check in, and I know we've had some new people joining us here, and 26 people popping in and out, which is great. I really appreciate it. For those who might be new to the channel, consider supporting me and the channel with a super. Any revenue that we can generate goes to things like fixing this terrible camera that I have here. But an even better way to support me and the work that we're doing here is by becoming a member of the Patreon page. I know Jank is, he's a member, and I really appreciate that. And, we're looking to spread the word about that. So thank you for considering that. I'm going to take just a 1 minute pause so I can get a drink of water, because I've been talking for, I think, over half an hour now, and I just want to get some water. But while I'm doing that, I'm just going to mute my camera. And Mike, please put your comments in the the chat box, and I will answer them in about 60 seconds. All right, here we go. All right. Um, let's see. We got Hey Davey 3. Thanks so much. Let's see. Kind of off topic first. So from Jank, yeah. Sorry, just reading quickly. Oh, my glasses, of course. Kind of an off-topic question. I'm told that the New Testament is high level of Greek, but Revelation is terribly great. Is there a similar range of quality in the Hebrew Bible? Yeah, there is a range of certainly dialectic differences, and you know what constitutes sophisticated Hebrew is a matter of some discussion, because it appears that whatever Hebrew that you're reading in the Hebrew scriptures is not, is not um, everyday Hebrew. Um, so yeah, sorry, we just got a little spamming going on here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let me just, yeah, we got to get some of this out of here. Okay. Bear with me one second. Yeah, okay, just interrupted. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, there we go. All right, so this should help a little bit. Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, I've kind of blocked some of these comments here. Yeah, I see what's going on here. Okay, well, let me just clear up this chat. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, I love questions, but we just want to make sure they stay on topic, right? Okay, there we go. So I'm sorry. Let me get back to your question now. So off topic, yeah, the Greek, right? So in Hebrew, um, the problem is that anybody who writes in the days of ancient Israel, or if you want to call it the Hebrew Bible period, in the pre-common era, they are literate, and the literacy rate is somewhere around 5%. I deal with this in my book, a book I wrote, I don't know, it's been about 5 years now, I guess. No, a little more than that. It was 2019. Jesus' Bible, A Concise History of the Hebrew Scriptures. It's not really a religious book. It's more of a history of how the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament became a book. And yeah, the rate of literacy, pardon me, is so low that that would have been the case. In the Greek world, there was still literacy is very low relative to today, but it's a much higher literacy rate, which allows for more variation and the ability to produce writing. Yes, it's still expensive, but it does. There is a lot more variety. So I would have to say that while there is variety in the Hebrew scriptures, it's not like that where you have some sort of a wild swing in terms of levels of literacy. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so so I think that's all we got for questions. If I missed anybody's questions, please let me know. Okay, but anyways, so Havel Havalim, I'm going to translate it for now as the most Hevel thing, intentionally leaving the word Hevel untranslated because I want the context to guide us, okay? So the most Hevel thing, says Qohelet, the most Hevel thing, Havel Havalim, Hakol Havel, everything. Hakol literally means the all, but that's how you say everything in Hebrew. Hakol Havel. And notice what happens to the word Hevel when it's in pause, right? When oftentimes when a word appears in especially with the siluk, the final accent of a verse in Hebrew, um, the vowel will lengthen, and it will often return to its original form, which is, lo and behold, an A vowel. And so this is just further evidence that the word Hevel comes from Habel, Habl. Okay. But what does it mean that everything is Hevel? Well, one of the things that I'll make reference to, a great commentary on Qohelet, is in the Jewish Bible, the JPS Bible commentary series, and you can see it there. This is such a great commentary series. And so Michael Fox, who very, very distinguished scholar, he has written elsewhere on on Ecclesiastes and the word Hevel and so on and so forth. So this is really just a fantastic introduction. But I want to show you his translation here. I don't know. Let me make sure you can see this. There we go. All right. Still getting used to this setup. And if you're able to read that, it says, the words of Qohelet, son of David, king in Jerusalem, utter futility, says Qohelet. Utter futility, all is futile. Okay? And so he goes with, translates the word Hevel as futile, and we'll discuss why some other time, because, I have to be conscious of the clock here. But we'll get into why he goes in that direction some other time. But that is how we're going to translate this. So let's go over and have a look at the Greek. I don't know. There's no no real reason why to, but you can see in the Septuagint here, the New English translation of the Septuagint, it says, it goes with vanity of vanities, by the way, says the Ecclesiastes. Okay, vanity of vanity, all things are vanity. So the word, I'm gonna just highlight it for you here. Okay, in Kini pronunciation would be mateotis, mateotis. Okay, mateotis. Oops, there we go. And it puts it in the it's a literal translation grammatically. Okay, here tapanta, all things. Okay, which should really be tapanda. Tapanda, all things are mateotis. And just to show you how this is used throughout, throughout Greek literature. And so this is the, oh boy, yeah, let me scroll down here. Hang on a second. There we go. All right. So I don't want to mess with the camera. But anyways, you can see mateotis here, a state of being without use or value, emptiness, futility, purposelessness, transitoriness. So this Greek term actually corresponds quite well to what the ways in which we find Hevel being used in Hebrew. So it's really a very good Greek translation. It has that element of, it preserves the element of ambiguity that is there in the Hebrew as well. So really well done here by the translator into Greek. So we can see that the Septuagint there is a literal translation of the Hebrew. Okay, no funny business. But what about the Targum? And oh boy, are we in for it here. Okay, so the Targum, I just want to scroll really quickly. Notice that the translation to the Hebrew takes just over 2 lines here. If you took out the reference, actually, it would be 2 lines. The translation to the Greek is just about as long. Okay. Now have a look at the Targum down here. Oops, let's see if we can highlight it for you. Look at how long that is. So I'm going to read, I don't know, just, do you guys like when I read this in Aramaic, or would you prefer that I just work from the English translation of the Aramaic? I could do both or just one, whatever is best in your opinion. I'd love for you to let me know. But while I'm waiting for your comments, I'll just kind of chime in here and read the Aramaic. And let me just fix my screen. Okay, so it begins by saying, Kad chaza Shlomo malka d'Yisrael. All right, I'll just do that first. So why don't we highlight this? Boom. All right, so there we go. Okay, so Kad chaza, when he saw, Kad chaza, when he saw. Who saw? Shlomo. When Solomon saw, And wait, who's Solomon? Malkad Yisrael, the king of Israel. So when um, Solomon, the king of Israel, saw, and then we get the next words here. Okay. And oops, I didn't highlight it right. So there we go. And we get Beruach Kudsha, Beruach Kudsha, by the Spirit of holiness. By the Spirit of holiness. How did I translate it? Did I say Holy Spirit here? Oh, yeah, interestingly, right, you'll notice I went with spirit of prophecy. And the reason I did that, now that I'm thinking about it, is because there's a variant reading in the Aramaic manuscripts. So even though the text that we're looking at says, or the text I was reading off of says spirit of holiness. Other manuscripts, like the one here, says beruach nivuah. So I have two versions of the Aramaic. So this one says spirit of prophecy. The other one says spirit of holiness, which is interestingly how the Apostle Paul, um, the Apostle Paul, refers to the Holy Spirit at least once in Romans. It's in Romans chapter 1. I have to think for 1 second. Where he's talking about, as I recall, it's somewhere around verse 6. It might be verse 4, but where he raised something to the effect of he raised his son Jesus Christ from the dead by the Spirit, or declared him to be, declared him to be the Son of God with power. Oh, good grief. Let's look it up. Declared him to be the Son of God with power by his resurrection from the dead. And let me just go over here, ESV, and let's just bring that over. What am I looking at? No, I don't want the notes. I want that. Yeah. Sorry, Romans 1. I'm just blanking on this. Set apart for the gospel of God, which promised pouring through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures, concerning his son, who's descended from the seed of David, according to the flesh, and was declared to be the Son of God with power, according to the Spirit of holiness. Now, that is not the usual way of saying that in Greek there, okay? But it's a very Semitic way to say it, okay? Yeah, Romans 1 intro, very good, yeah. So Romans 1:4, that's a very Semitic way to say that, and we encounter that same language here in Aramaic. But Holy Spirit in most Jewish texts is Holy Spirit without capitals. It is synonymous with the spirit of prophecy. It's not understood to be the person, a person of the Trinity or something like that. We'll talk about that some other time in more detail. But in the Targums, spirit of prophecy and spirit of holiness are synonymous. Okay, whoops, hold on, Jank. I clicked on something. Here we go. Is it true that Ugaritic is closer to Hebrew than Aramaic? Nobody's ever asked that question before. Closer. I'm trying to think about how to quantify closeness with them. I could make a case for both. I could find parallels for both there. It's worth pointing out that Aramaic is an older language than Hebrew, based on the written evidence that we have. It's worth noting that Aramaic comes from Syria and Ugaritic comes from Syria. That what is today called Syria, right? There are phonological things about Aramaic that are similar, but I'd have to really think about how to even quantify that. The bottom line is that they're all really closely related. They're just all really closely related. Yeah. But we'd have to talk about, are we talking about vocabulary? Are we talking about grammar? Are we talking about phonology? There's so many different ways to quantify closeness. So, but it's an excellent question. Yeah. All right. So let's see what we got here. But yeah, so we get Kat Chaza Shlomo Malka Israel Beruach Nivuah, or Beruach Kucha, by the spirit of holiness or by the spirit of prophecy, right? And then we get Ya Malchut Rechavam, the kingdom of Rehoboam, okay? Malchut Rehovam Bre, his son, his son. So he saw in a vision. That's what chazah means. He saw in a vision, right? That the kingdom of Rehoboam, his son, okay, yeah, bare, da'atid le'itplaga. This is a verb that um, is related to the word peleg, in Genesis there. So it means to be divided, right? So that it would be divided le'itplaga im Yerovam with Jeroboam Baal Nevat, the son of Nevat, v'yat Yerushalem uveit makdeshah. So, and that Jerusalem and the temple, de'inun atidin lemichav, okay, that it would be laid waste, all right, and it keeps going, v'yat, definite direct object marker, like et in Hebrew, v'yat ama beit Yisrael de'inun atidin lemiglei, that the people of the house of Israel would go into exile. When he saw all this in a vision, he said, Amar b'memre, by, and then I translated, he said to himself. He said by his word, but it means he said to himself. And then it quotes this: the greatest of vanities is this world. So what is the most vain thing or the most futile thing? It's this world, right? Um, it's this world. The greatest of vanities is all that my father David and I took pains in doing, all is vanity. In other words, Ecclesiastes 1:2, according to the Targum, yeah, it is. It is growing exponentially. You're absolutely right. I think I'm going to have to make, this is going to have to become like the Truman Show, where it's just a 24-hour live stream and I quit both of my jobs and just sit here and, go down one rabbit hole after the other. So, but yeah, that's, that. So what it's saying is not just that everything's vanity. He says specifically the fact that Israel went and sinned and screwed everything up, causing them to go into exile. They made everything that David and my father did meaningless. That's what the Targum did. And this gives us some insight into medieval Jewish interpretation of the Bible. And the Targums, just because it's there in the Targum doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong, but it gives us an interpretive lens which A, sheds light into medieval Judaism, and secondly gives us some ideas as to how the text of the Bible was understood roughly in the days of Jesus and nascent Christianity. So, all right. Well, I feel like my voice is going to be shot if I don't stop at this point, but we got a good hour in for today, so that's great. I would very much appreciate you guys sharing the word, inviting other people to join us. Definitely looking for new individuals who will also partner with me to help, keep this going financially. And I appreciate the support that you guys are already offering. Thank you so much. And you have my email address, I think, so you guys know how to get a hold of me. And, maybe I'll be back tomorrow, do something else. All right. So have a great day, everybody, and take care. All right. Oh, wait. Sorry, there is one question here. Does your use of ESV mean you like it? Most scholars don't. Yeah, I like it. It's, is it the best? Again, how do you quantify best with translations? It's a pretty reliable translation. I find that it is fairly literal. Thank you so much, Jank. I really appreciate that. I just saw your comment there. Yeah, I find it to be a very reliable translation. It has some, it's not totally wooden, but it's definitely not dynamic in the sense that the NIV is, where it's, not that the NIV is always right or always wrong. It's just that it's so heavily interpretive that it leaves very little room for interpretation on the part of the Bible reader. And one of the things we'll talk, here we go again, some other time, is maybe we'll do a video or two on Bible translations and what makes for a good or bad Bible translation. The only Bible translation I would ever say is bad is one that's done totally incompetently. But in terms of style, whether it's wooden or dynamic or paraphrase, all the styles, in my opinion, have value. So it's really what we're looking for. I find the ESV is a good text for congregational worship, and I find while it does incorporate text critical considerations, it is a good representation of the Masoretic text as we have it. So, is it the best? No, I don't think anything's the best, but it works for me. So, but I'd love to hear, sometime what you guys like, if, there's a translation you'd prefer. And if ever you want me to look at other translations while we're doing this videos, I'm absolutely happy to do it. So, I started off, in my early days, as a King James person, switched over to the New American Standard Bible. After that, I think I went to the NRSV. Yeah, after that was the NRSV. And now, I just use the ESV. Yeah, and that kind of all that there is to it, I guess. But anyways, thank you so much for, sharing this channel with other people. I really appreciate that. I saw that in your comment below. And maybe we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. If you're watching the Marist University basketball game, my son Parby Kabamba plays for Marist University men's basketball. They have a game tonight at 7 o'clock, and you'll see me at the game. So I don't know if we usually get on TV from the seats that we have, but Parby Kabamba, number 15, go